Relax. It doesn't matter anymore. That was the first message I saw minutes before walking down the aisle from my sister. Before I could even process it, another notification appeared. We're not coming. Don't wait for us. I stood in a cramped dressing room behind the hall, staring at my screen with a half-pin veil and an uncapped lipstick still lying on the table. For a few seconds, I genuinely thought it had to be a joke. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. I used your card for our dinner. All of it. Add more funds. I didn't argue. I didn't call. I didn't cry. I just typed one word back, noted. That evening, I stood under the lights and said my vows in front of empty chairs. And at 2:57 a.m., still in my wedding dress, mascara fading and curls collapsing, I sent a single link into the family group chat with one quiet warning. You should watch this before anyone else sees it. I had never experienced silence that loud before. Let me explain. My name is Lena Hart. I'm 31. A systems analyst who spends most days rescuing small companies from digital disasters, crashed servers, broken payroll systems, panicked managers begging for fixes before Monday. It's not glamorous work, but it's steady and predictable, which is more than I can say for my family. I grew up believing I was the background support beam while my younger sister Vanessa sparkled at the center of every room. She had the kind of presence people turn toward without knowing why, loud, dramatic, effortlessly noticeable. I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need attention, because I was so mature for my age, which was really just code for you don't matter as much. Even as kids, everything tilted in her favor. If I brought home an A, Mom would say, "Good job, honey," while rinsing dishes. If Vanessa brought home an A, Mom practically hosted a celebration and posted 10 photos online. If I got a B, Dad lectured me about discipline. If Vanessa failed an entire class, they blamed the teacher, the curriculum, and sometimes the universe itself. When I fixed Mom's laptop at 13, I got a nod. When Vanessa updated her Instagram bio at 19, Mom called me to discuss it for 40 minutes as if it were a national event. By adulthood, the favoritism had evolved into something sharper. Vanessa drifted from job to job, leaving unpaid bills and drama. Each time she ran into trouble, my parents stepped in. When she maxed out her first credit card, Dad paid it off to protect her credit. When she quit her second job, Mom blamed the workplace for not appreciating creative minds. When she demanded a luxury SUV she couldn't afford, they asked me to co-sign the lease. Vanessa twirled her hair, smiled, and said, "Just for a year." That was 4 years ago. Guess whose name is still on the payments? Mine. Meanwhile, my own life was painfully practical. I lived in a small apartment with flickering lights, drove a car that rattled whenever the AC kicked on, and saved every extra dollar for a future I hoped would eventually exist. Evan, my fiancé, knew parts of what I carried, but not everything. He would shake his head whenever another bill for Vanessa arrived. "Lena, you're allowed to stop," he'd say softly while stirring pasta. "You don't owe them your entire life, but old habits are hard to unlearn." I kept insisting they're family. They'll come around. I wish I hadn't believed that. The night Evan proposed wasn't picturesque or staged. It was on my living room floor between takeout and laundry baskets. He held out a simple ring with trembling hands and said he wanted a quiet, steady, beautiful life with me. I said yes instantly. We planned a small, intimate wedding, 50 guests, soft lights, warm atmosphere. When I told my parents, they responded politely, but without excitement. Mom questioned whether a real church ceremony would be more respectable. Vanessa made a face and said, "Oh, like a backyard wedding? Cute." I ignored the sting. I always did. Vanessa insisted on handling the cake. "I know someone who makes gorgeous rustic ones," she bragged. Trust me, I sent her the money from our wedding budget, $460. Weeks passed, no receipt. Every time I asked, she brushed me off. Later, relax. The truth hit the night Evan checked our vendor emails. Lena, this cake invoice says refunded. My stomach dropped. Vanessa had taken the money for herself again. When I confronted her, she sighed dramatically. I needed a spa day, chill out. People don't even eat cake. Something inside me cracked, but I still didn't cut her off. Some foolish part of me was determined to believe that my family would show up for me, at least on my wedding day. Then came my bridal shower. Vanessa arrived wearing pure white, looking like a second bride. The entire room stared. When someone asked if she misunderstood the invitation, she laughed and said, "Relax, it's not that serious." But it was serious. Everything was serious. Everything was piling up inside me like a weight I carried since childhood. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom and whispered, I just want one day. One day that feels like mine. Evan sat outside the door and offered to elope immediately, but I insisted on holding on to hope. They'll come, I said. They have to. The wedding morning was bathed in soft golden light. I got ready early. Evan sent a photo of the decorated arch. Guests began arriving, music started. The photographer captured every detail. Everything was falling into place, except for the rows reserved for my family, which remained completely empty. At 3:55, with trembling hands, I texted Vanessa, "Where are you?" Her reply came instantly, "Relax, no one's coming." Then another, "We're all at my engagement dinner instead." My family didn't think I even needed to know she was engaged. And as if that weren't enough, Mom added, "I used your card. All $500. Add more funds." I typed one word back. Noted. Then I walked down the aisle alone, through empty chairs, pretending I wasn't shattering with every step. I remember standing under the arch, trying to breathe while my hands trembled around the bouquet. The officiant glanced toward the empty rows more than once, gently clearing his throat as if wishing he could fix something that wasn't his to fix. He asked if we should wait a few more minutes, but I shook my head. I couldn't bear the humiliation of standing there any longer, pretending my family might magically appear. Evan's face softened when I stepped forward alone. He didn't look at the chairs. He looked only at me, like he was trying to hold the pieces of me together with his eyes. The ceremony was beautiful in the way heartbreak sometimes is, quiet, honest, stripped of everything unnecessary. The sun dipped low, casting a warm gold over the scene, almost mocking in its perfection. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Evan's hands shook against my cheeks. He whispered, "I'm sorry," but I kept my voice steady as I whispered back, "This isn't your fault." Everyone clapped, but I heard the emptiness louder than the applause. At the reception, Evan had ordered an emergency cake from a local bakery after Vanessa drained our cake budget. It was small, uneven, nothing like the one we imagined, but people pretended it was charming. We danced under string lights, smiling for the guests who tried to cheer us up, but the ache never left my chest. By 9, the night was over, and we slipped back to our hotel room in a silence that said everything. I dropped onto the edge of the bed, still in my dress. Evan went to wash his face. My phone buzzed, a notification from Vanessa's Instagram. Against my better judgment, I opened it. There she was wearing a sparkling white dress, holding her fiancé's hand at a rooftop restaurant, captioned "Forever Starts Tonight." Behind her, my parents raised champagne glasses with proud, glowing smiles. They looked like a family celebrating something monumental. They looked complete. And I was nowhere in the picture, not even in their thoughts. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. Something inside me simply went quiet, a kind of silence I had never felt before. A silence that wasn't weakness or shock, it was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. My phone kept buzzing with more photos, more videos, more proof that my family had chosen Vanessa again over me. I stared at my reflection in the dark TV screen, mascara smudged, lipstick fading, veil slipping, eyes exhausted. I didn't look like a bride. I looked like someone who finally understood the truth. I opened my laptop. Evan came out of the bathroom, confused when he saw the screen glowing. "Lena?" he said gently. "Come here. Let's get you out of that dress." But I shook my head. I wasn't ready. Not until I did one thing. He asked, "What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My voice would have cracked. I opened the recording software. The webcam light turned on, and suddenly there I was, broken yet terrifyingly calm. I hit record. My voice stayed steady as I told the truth. All of it. I talked about the texts, the money, the years of being overshadowed, the endless sacrifices, the wedding they didn't come to. I showed screenshots. I showed receipts. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I didn't dramatize anything. I simply told the truth. "This isn't revenge," I said at the end. "This is clarity." It took 12 minutes. When I finished, my finger hovered over public, but instead, I chose unlisted. I copied the link, opened the family group chat, and typed, "Watch this before you decide what to say next." Then I hit send. When I finally shut the laptop, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Air. Actual air filling my lungs. Evan crossed the room slowly, like approaching something fragile. "Are you okay?" he whispered. "I don't know," I said. He sat beside me, took my hand, and didn't speak another word. We crawled into bed, still wearing parts of our wedding clothes. We fell asleep like two people who had survived something unspeakable. When I woke up, the sunlight was cutting across the room. Evan was still asleep. My phone was vibrating nonstop. Dozens of notifications, dozens of missed messages. As soon as I unlocked it, the group chat exploded on screen. "Dad, take that video down now." "Mom, Lena, this was unnecessary and cruel." "Vanessa, you ruined my engagement night." "I can't believe you're this insecure." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words, but because I finally understood I didn't owe them explanations anymore. I set the phone aside, exhaled deeply, and realized something surprising. My life was finally beginning. By noon, things had spiraled far beyond my family chat. I didn't even realize what was happening until Evan walked into the living room holding his phone like it was a piece of shocking news. "Lena," he said slowly, "you're trending." I blinked, still half asleep, still exhausted. "Trending where?" He turned his screen toward me. A TikTok creator had stitched a short clip of my recording the moment I sat in the prep room, looking at the empty rows behind me. The caption read, "Bride abandoned by her family on her wedding day." This is what generational favoritism looks like. The video had already crossed 1 million views. Comments poured in. "She deserved better." "This broke me." "Vanessa is jealous, plain and simple." "No one deserves to walk the aisle alone." My hands shook, but not from fear, from disbelief. From the sudden realization that strangers saw me more clearly than my own family ever had. By mid-afternoon, the video had been reposted across multiple platforms: Reddit, Twitter, YouTube reaction channels. My subscriber count doubled, then tripled. People wrote paragraphs about their own childhoods, their own golden child siblings, their own invisible wounds. I read every message with a strange, painful heaviness settling in my chest. Meanwhile, Vanessa locked her Instagram account. Mom deleted half of her posts. Dad stopped responding entirely. But extended relatives, they had a lot to say. "Aunt Julia, Vanessa didn't mean harm." "Uncle Brent, you made a private matter public." "Cousin Naomi, Lena, I'm proud of you." Someone needed to say it. "Old family friend, your parents always favored Vanessa." "I'm glad you finally spoke." It was chaos, loud, messy chaos, but for once none of it was aimed at protecting Vanessa. For once, the force of truth was finally tilting the other way. And then the phone call came. My grandfather. He never called me directly, not once in my entire life. My stomach dropped when his name lit up on my screen. Evan looked at me and whispered, "Answer it." I swallowed hard and picked up. Hi, Grandpa. His voice was trembling. Lena, sweetheart. I watched your video. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, I whispered automatically, because apologies had been my first language my whole life. But he cut me off. Don't you dare apologize. Not for this. My breath hitched. I always suspected they treated you differently, he said softly. But seeing you walk down that aisle alone, hearing the pain in your voice, it broke me, child. It broke me. I felt tears rise for the first time since the wedding. Not because of the condemnation, but because of the compassion, rare, overdue, but real. I sent you a little something, he added gently. Use it for yourself, not for them. For you. A notification pinged on my screen, a bank transfer, $5,000. I covered my mouth with my hand. Not because of the money, but because someone in my family had finally chosen me. After we hung up, I collapsed into Evan's arms. He kissed the top of my head and murmured, "We're leaving." No phones, no noise. Just us. We packed a bag and drove to a small cabin Evan had rented on impulse. No Wi-Fi, no cell service. Just pine trees, cold air, a fireplace we failed to light properly 3 times, and the quietest quiet I had ever heard. I slept 12 hours straight, curled into Evan's chest, the way a person rests after surviving a storm they didn't know would end. For 2 days, I felt peace soak into my skin. No guilt, no worry, no expectations. The silence didn't feel like punishment anymore. It felt like healing. When we finally drove back into the city, my chest felt lighter, clearer, like something heavy had finally fallen off. My phone reconnected to the network the second we pulled into our parking lot, and immediately it exploded with notifications, hundreds of messages, thousands of comments, DM requests, mentions, screenshots, news articles, reaction videos. Evan put a hand on my knee. "Don't check it yet," he whispered. "Let's go inside first." Inside the apartment, I finally opened my phone. Family Fallout, Phase 2. Vanessa had posted a desperate 3-slide Instagram story before locking her account again. It read, "People don't know the real story. The internet is ruining my mental health. My sister is unstable. Classic Vanessa. Zero accountability. Maximum drama." Mom texted, "Your video is destroying our family. You need to take responsibility." Dad wrote, "You didn't need to make this public. We could have handled it privately." Privately. As if years of silence has solved anything. A flood of messages from other relatives followed. Accusations, defenses, arguments. Like 100 people screaming inside a burning house while I stood outside holding the truth. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I made myself tea and sat on the couch while Evan scrolled through his phone. Then he suddenly laughed under his breath and turned the screen toward me. "Lena, you're on the YouTube trending page." There was a clip, me in my wedding dress, sitting alone, the caption reading, "Bride abandoned by her family. Her strength will break you." It had millions of views, millions. People in the comments defended me. People validated me. People believed me. Then the doorbell rang. Evan stiffened. "Stay here," he said, but I shook my head. "No, I need to see who it is." I opened the door. My father stood there, wrinkled shirt, messy hair, eyes red like he hadn't slept. "Lena," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I crossed my arms. "About what?" He hesitated, then sighed. "The video, you hurt a lot of people." I laughed, a hollow, humorless sound. "I hurt people?" He looked down. "It was Vanessa's idea. I didn't know she planned to skip the wedding." "You've said that my entire life," I said, voice steady. "You didn't know, you didn't see, you didn't realize. You didn't notice." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. "We were just trying to support her," he said. "She always struggled." "At my expense," I replied. "Always at my expense." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just looked tired. We're family, he said weakly. We can fix this. I shook my head. No, Dad, you can fix what you broke. But you don't get to break me again. He stared at me, confused. So I said the words that had been growing inside me for years. You can still be Vanessa's father, I whispered. But you're not mine anymore. He flinched like I struck him. Then he turned and walked away. I closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a trembling breath. Evan wrapped his arms around me, his voice warm against my ear. I'm proud of you. For the first time in years. I believed him. In the weeks that followed, the chaos didn't stop, it simply shifted direction. My relatives, who had spent years pretending not to notice the imbalance, were suddenly forced to pick a side. Some chose me quietly, sending small messages of support late at night. Others clung to Vanessa's dramatics, insisting I had humiliated the family by showing the truth instead of hiding it like they always expected. But something strange happened. Every argument, every accusation, every guilt-tripping attempt felt distant, like background noise in a life I wasn't obligated to participate in anymore. Vanessa posted a long, vague caption on her now private Instagram account about being betrayed by people she trusted and receiving targeted online harassment. It received 3 likes. 3. The girl who lived for attention, who breathed validation like oxygen, was finally facing a world that didn't bend to her theatrics. Mom stopped speaking to several relatives who openly supported me. Dad removed himself from family group chats entirely. It was like watching a messy collapse from far away, a house crumbling that I no longer lived in. Meanwhile, Evan and I built a quiet, soft life that felt shockingly peaceful. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was bracing for impact every day. We cooked pasta at midnight. We spent lazy Sundays on the couch watching shows neither of us really cared about. We hiked new trails, laughed too loudly at board games, and talked about moving somewhere with fewer memories dragging at my ankles. Eventually we did. 3 months after the wedding, we signed a lease for a smaller place, cheaper, brighter, quieter. It felt like a reset button nobody else had the power to touch. We hung only one wedding photo on the wall. The one where we were dancing under the string lights, his hands on my waist, my forehead pressed to his, and behind us rows of empty chairs. People who didn't know the story would tilt their heads and whisper, "Isn't it sad?" And Evan always answered before I could. "No, it's honest," and he was right. That photo was the truth. And the truth was finally allowed to exist without being buried under excuses. About 9 months later, on a random Tuesday night while eating tacos in our living room, Evan looked at me thoughtfully and asked, "Do you want a redo?" I blinked, tortilla halfway to my mouth. A redo of what? He smiled, that soft, steady smile that always made the world feel manageable. The wedding. Just for us. I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. But 3 weeks later, I found him watching tutorials on how to get ordained online. And somehow, it happened. We hosted a tiny ceremony in our backyard. Just our closest friends, a handful of lanterns hanging from the fence, and a taco truck parked by the walkway because the owner had seen my video online and insisted on catering for free. My dress was simple this time, nothing dramatic. Evan's suit was slightly wrinkled because he insisted on ironing it himself. We stood under the string lights while Jake played music on a portable speaker. When Evan read his vows again, he added one line that cracked something open inside me. "I'm grateful your family didn't show up that day," he said quietly, "because it showed us who was never meant to stay and who always was." I cried. Not the silent, suppressed tears I was used to. Real crying. The kind that comes from relief, not sadness. Everyone cried. Even Jake cried, and Jake swore he never cried at weddings. We kissed under the lights, and this time it felt like a beginning, not a salvage mission. After the ceremony, we ate tacos on mismatched plates, laughing until our stomachs hurt. No drama. No tension. No one waiting to compare me to Vanessa. No one judging the simplicity. No empty chairs that represented empty relationships. Just us present, real, and choosing each other without hesitation. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling across the sheets and Evan's arm draped around me. It felt like joy. Not loud, not forced, just quiet and steady. The kind of joy I used to think other people got by luck, not knowing it could be built intentionally. I checked my phone out of habit. Dozens of new messages from strangers online, supportive, kind, encouraging. And then a new one from Grandpa. Saw the pictures. You look happy. That's all I ever wanted for you. I smiled for the first time that day, a real smile that didn't pull at old scars. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for my family to show up. I was living in a world where the only people in it were the ones who chose me without hesitation, without conditions, without needing to be asked. People who showed up simply because they wanted to. And that was more than enough. It has been almost a year now, long enough for the dust to settle yet short enough that some wounds still sting when touched. I haven't spoken to my mother since her half-hearted apology at Christmas, the kind delivered more out of obligation than remorse. My father never reached out again. Vanessa blocked me on everything and vanished behind her usual curtain of dramatics, and Yvette discovered something surprising in all that silence. I don't regret the video. Not a single second of it. People like to say I exposed my family, but the truth is far simpler. I didn't expose anything. I just stopped protecting them. I stopped carrying the burden they handed me when I was young. The one labeled, keep the peace, even when the peace was never meant for me. The real victory wasn't the views, the comments, or the support from strangers. The real win was letting go of the guilt I had carried for years. Letting go of the idea that being family meant accepting pain without calling it by its name. I learned something I should have learned long ago. Family isn't a debt. Family isn't an obligation you suffer through. Family is supposed to be safety, consistency, love. And when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Not the 10th, not the 100th, the first. Now, life feels different in a way I didn't know I was allowed to want. Evan and I are building something quiet and soft and entirely ours. A life without shouting matches, without begging to be seen, without shrinking myself so others could feel bigger. A life where I wake up knowing I am chosen, not tolerated. Every time I look at that wedding photo, the one with the empty chairs behind us, I no longer see disappointment. I no longer see humiliation or abandonment. I see freedom. I see the moment my life split into before and after. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is close the door gently behind you, walk away without performing your pain, and build a life where the people in it never need reminders to show up. That photo doesn't hurt anymore. It reminds me that I finally did